I know that a number of the governing bodies are doing more now to kind of help players with that transition, but what I would like to see happen is we help them at the front end. You know, let's not rush people out of school. Let's get them to a level that they can progress as a professional without having to give up on their education. So my name's Stuart Mccaffrey. I'm a former professional footballer. I played for 15 years here in Scotland. Started my career at Hibernian, had spells at Aberdeen, Inverness, Caledonian Thistle, St Johnstone and Greenock Morton before a pretty nasty foot injury brought my career to an end at 32 years of age.
And where did it all start for you with football?
You know, for me as a kid, that's all I wanted to do. If I wasn't in school, I had a ball at my feet. I joined a young grassroots club when I was 9 in East Kilbride, and yeah, it kind of took off from there. As every kid does, you start your sport at a grassroots level, and my aspiration was always to become a professional. So I worked very hard to try and achieve that. A lot of sacrifice, you know, a lot of things that you've got to give up to do that. Particularly as you start to get older and there's other temptations out there, you know, I had to look after myself to give what I thought was the best chance to progress into that full-time contract at Hibernian, which was my first club when I left school. I think when I was a kid, someone said to me there'll be more downs than ups in football, and I think that's probably a fair summary. I think the highs are very difficult to replace, but the lows are challenging. You know, you think about mental health, and it's more spoken about these days. People are more open about it, but you know, most professional athletes, I think, will suffer challenges to their mental health. Whether you've been injured or you've been let out of the team, things aren't going well, the manager changes, you're doing your job well, and something happens. So it's a challenge, an incredible challenge, a great experience. I wouldn't change any of it. But yeah, highs and lows. Highs very high and the lows not so great.
Like for professional athletes, like in the UK or worldwide that are playing in a professional environment, to get educated at the same time?
I think it's really easy for me to answer that question now. I think to myself, I've got a couple of kids, and I think about them, you know, putting all their eggs in one basket and just thinking that, you know, we'll become a professional at something and not having a backup plan. So one of the things I don't like about football and the system we have, and it's probably the same anywhere in the world, is that you have to kind of give up on your education to pursue that full-time pathway. You know, unlike golfers who can play into their late 40s and 50s and when they're at their peak at an older age, football, it's such a short career, and the kind of temptation is that we think everyone has to start and be ready at 17 or 18 to be in the first team. If you look around world football, there's not many kids at that age that will play of a weekend, so why are we in such a rush to get them in full time? Why are we in such a rush to get them out of school? We want them to be committed when they're in that club, but the first thing we ask them to do is to give up their commitment to their education. So I don't think that sends the right message. I think the best footballers in the world are also at times the smartest footballers. They understand how to live their life, you know, how to analyse game tape. In football, I didn't get a chance to do that. I was rushed out of school, so it's not something I would advise my own kids to do, and certainly anyone else's. Yeah, both girls are very, very talented at their dancing and probably their arts and crafts like their mum. Football, my oldest daughter Martha's got a huge interest in watching. She knows everything about it. She likes to go to games. I think football and Formula One are her two favourite things that we do together. So yeah, they like. My youngest daughter as well. She's a bit of a fan from the periphery. You know, she's not been to that many games. She's been to see Scotland a couple of times, but yeah, the two of them are keen enough to learn about it, but maybe not play. They don't play very often. Yeah, they're pretty set.
For your professional sport, whether it be football or whatever else, is education something you're going to essentially mandate that they do, or encourage them to be in school and potentially university?
Yeah, I think if you think about however long your professional career is, it's going to come to an end. So my pitch to my kids would be, what do you want to do when you stop playing? What type of life do you want? Do you want to be scraping by, or do you want to have a degree that allows you to go and develop and grow? Because you know, for me, retiring at 32, you know, I've got quite a few years to work. At 43 now, I've still got plenty more to go. You know, how do you want that to look? Do you want to have a career that you can move into, and can you set yourself up as you know, as you progress in your sport? Can you be ready for that next challenge? Because your career as a professional could last a couple of years, it could last 15 years like me, but the key thing is being ready for that transition. And I think that's the worrying thing, and I go back to talking about mental health, is that it's a big challenge to transition from being a professional athlete into the workplace. So we have to do more to educate people that they need to be ready to do that, because it really is a challenge.
And do you think this is unique to football, the gap in supporting mental health and the gap in education for players, or do you see this across all professional sports?
It's a difficult one to answer across all professional sports, but I certainly think those sports where there is a really tight time frame for you based on your age to participate and play, the pressure is always on to kind of get you into that environment quite quickly. So I know that a number of the governing bodies are doing more now to kind of help players with that transition, but what I would like to see happen is we help them at the front end. You know, let's not rush people out of school. Let's get them to a level that they can progress as a professional without having to give up on their education, and that's going to set them up for a future within their sport and into the workplace.
And what are you doing now? Are you helping lead the way in terms of fixing that gap between education and professional sport?
So I think, you know, even in my playing days, towards the end, I was involved with the players' union. So a real focus on, you know, what else can we do for players to help them. So I'm in a really privileged position at First Point USA, where, you know, we're getting to help young athletes to progress on and off the field. So the motivation for me and I believe our staff is that we're trying to create life-changing opportunities so that young people can progress in tandem, you know, their education and their sport. So that's the big motivation for me, because I've lived a certain way of doing things, and if I could turn back time, you know, I would definitely not give up on education and set myself up for a future.
Without going down that American route too much, but would you go down an education route? Look at?
I think what I would look at is where could I go to give me the best opportunity to be ready to be a first team player at 22. I played in the first team when I was 17, but I only made a handful of appearances, and I didn't become a regular player until I was probably 21. So that was kind of 4 years that you could argue were a wee bit wasted. So, you know, what could I have done differently there? And if the US or Canada or somewhere else in the world was the right place for me to go in those 4 years, I think that's where I would want to go.
If you had any advice for kids or guys at 22, 21 that are perhaps falling out of football now, that they might go back to that mental health piece, that are struggling a wee bit with it, is there anything you would say to them, or point in the direction of what is the next steps for them? Yeah,
certainly from a football perspective, you know, the Players' Union here in Scotland and England, and I guess around the world through FIFPro, the World Players' Union, are doing a lot more, I think, these days for athletes in that transitional period. So I think my advice is always to ask for help, and I think the way sport is, people in sport will help you. I think there's a really great network of people. There are lots of different roles within sport that you can start to enter into, and you can build it up and build a career for yourself away from the game. And I guess it's not to be too anxious about it. You know, we've got a lot of transferable skills. Athletes, you know, thinking about the professionalism, the dedication, the resilience, the teamwork, all of these things that we don't realise we have. So we are valuable people to move into the workplace. It's just having the confidence, perhaps, and the opportunity that we need to create for people. But yeah, always ask for help, and I think in a sporting context you will get it. And you know, some of the governing bodies of sport are doing a lot more these days for athletes, and I think it's more, you know, it's because people are more open about how they're feeling and their mental health, and it's maybe created more support, which is great.
So, as you said, you're 43 now. You've lived your career in professional sport. What's next? What are your goals for the future?
That's a difficult one. I'm obviously, you know, in 6 months into my role here at First Point. I'm excited. I work with a really good team of people. You know, I want to help them if I can, but you know, continuing to learn myself. I'm learning all the time. Every day is a school day at First Point, and yeah, just keen to help the business develop and grow. And if we're doing that, it means that we're helping more young people. So that's the immediate aspiration. And you know, for me, sport is the bit that gets me motivated to get out of bed in the morning. So my career will always be involved in some way, shape or form with football or sport involved, and the fact that we can help more young people at first point with a growing staff, I think that's the exciting part for the next couple of years.